Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be the episode involving analog accessories, the vinyl version. And I've got a lot of stuff here, so where do you begin? We'll just start. I guess maybe the easiest thing is just with stylus cleanliness. And as you're playing your records, you get dust in the grooves and eventually gunk starts to accumulate on the stylus, on the cartridge stylus, and so you want to keep that clean. So for the longest time I used this item. It's the Mobile Fidelity LP9. I used to refer to it as Love Potion number 9. And it's a liquid, it's just got a little applicator brush. You dip it in, rub it on the stylus. Supposed to be whatever might be on the stylus comes off that way. And it actually had a little brush that came with this, a tiny little stiff brush. I don't know where that is anymore. I don't use this now because when I bought my Soundsmith cartridge, the instructions from the manufacturer said they don't recommend using liquid stylus cleaners because it could potentially loosen the contact cement that keeps the stylus connected to the cantilever. And so based on that recommendation, I stopped using this. What I did get in replacement is this Onzo Zero Dust, which is basically like this gelatinous blob inside of this little container. And the idea is you just lower the stylus down on it once or twice, and anything that's stuck on the stylus gets kind of stuck in here, almost like quicksand. And it's supposed to be a lot safer. I think a lot of people recommend the Onzo Zero Dust, but there's also an ultrasonic stylus cleaner as well, but I do believe that requires some liquid in the little well that does the ultrasonic cleaning, and for me I'm just not comfortable with getting my stylus wet. So but those are the three basic types of cleaning, or just a regular brush. I mean, you could just use a brush, but whatever, you need something. This is my recommendation. All right. So aside from cleaning records, one of the other things obviously is that records are very static. They like to attract dust, and so you need a brush. And typically today it's these anti-static brushes. This one is made by Acoustech, but I've seen this basic design branded with all kinds of different names on them. So pretty inexpensive. It is an anti-static brush, and it does a pretty effective job. But I've had a bunch of different ones over the years. This came with some order from that Sleeve City company that you can get those inner sleeves and outer sleeves from them. This one has a little felt pad in the middle of it and little brushes on the outside of it. It works. I don't use it quite so much anymore. This one goes back, it's more like a felt, I guess, and soft. I've had this, gosh, I want to say probably since the 70s, easily since the late 70s. And the very first one that I ever bought was this gadget, which is basically the same similar thing. It's just sort of a soft felt. I think the very first one I ever had was right here. So you need a brush, and I think the anti-static brushes are definitely the way to go. And as long as we're talking static, the Zero Dust, Zero Stat, it's an ionizer basically, and so if you get static, you can feel it. You raise the hair on your arms off your vinyl records. The idea behind this thing is just you kind of give it a squeeze and then gently let the trigger out, kind of like this. The company that makes this now is called Milty. This is the original, and I think whatever makes this thing work inside is supposed to be good for like 250,000 trigger pulls. The way you know this works is if you put this tip on bare skin and squeeze the trigger, you're going to feel it. Believe me, I don't know, these ions that it discharges are pretty powerful. So something like this is really handy. The company that makes it now is called Milty. It's still under the same Zero Stat name, but it's obviously they bulked it up. It looks different and has a little guard on the end of it. Maybe people were getting stung by this, and so they figured they needed to do something. But at any rate, this is a very handy device if you want to keep your static to a minimum. Great thing to have for that. So the other part of it is setting up your stylus so that it is tracking your record correctly, and that the length and how your cartridge is set up is extremely important. So today, a lot of the manufacturers, I think, recommend a tracking force of between let's say about maybe 1.8 grams up to 2.2. Typically, a lot of the mainstream cartridges are usually somewhere around that 2 gram to 2.2 gram range. And early on, I bought one of these. This is the Shure. It's like a beam scale, and that you use this to set the tracking force. This thing is I've always questioned how truly accurate it really was. So it wasn't long before I retired it and got, a digital one. And they come under a bunch of different names. This is just a generic no-name thing. You pick it up off of eBay, Amazon for $50 or less. All right, they come branded with, like, Ortofon has one, and you pay about $150 for that because it's got their name on it. That's my personal view. But they're all exceedingly accurate, and the idea is just, you lay it on your platter, you put your stylus right on there, put the cueing lever down, and you can make adjustments to the counterweight to get your tracking force exactly where it should be. So definitely a digital scale, really important. All right, so next I think would be, every once in a blue moon, you might want to check to see what kind of wear you're having on your cartridge. A jeweler's loop is pretty good. This one is, I think, 30 power on the big lens and 60 power on the small one. And it actually has a little light in it too that helps you see better. This is really, really good because you can really get a super close-up look at what the condition of your stylus is, particularly after you've had it for some time. If you, 3, 4, 5, 600 hours, 1,000 hours of use, this is where this thing might start coming in a bit handy. So the other elements of this are going to be in setting up your cartridge, your tone arm, to make certain that it's performing at its best level. And so this is the Project Align It tool. Basically, you can see the hole here is where you put it on the spindle, and it's got index numbers down here. It's got 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then on the bar it's got the same thing. So depending upon what the length of your tone arm is, it's either 9-inch. My EATE flat has a 10-inch arm, and then some people have 12-inch arms. You'll make that adjustment, and then the idea here is that this little pinnacle, this pin, is going to be sitting right at the very top of the pivot point on the back of the tone arm, and then that's basically, once you get that set, you put some tape on the platter so it can't move, and then in here is where the null point is for where your tip of your stylus wants to hit, and then from there the lines are for the alignment of it. So this one is good. I use this quite often whenever I've changed cartridges, which I hopefully don't have to do very often now that I've finally settled on the cartridge that I really like. But if you don't want to get something that costs that much, another one that's effective, particularly on a 9-inch arm, is this Mobile Fidelity Geo disc. This is actually pretty handy. It's nice because the instructions on how to use it are just all right here, written clearly. And the idea is this ridge is sort of like you just aim it to the pivot point of your arm and then take the platter down, and then this little, if you can see that right here, the little red white dot is the hole where your stylus should go, and then you can see the grid, and then that helps you with the alignment of the body of the cartridge to make sure that it's completely straight. It actually works pretty well. No complaints with that. So the other thing I think I've got to take you into the other room to show you how it actually works. But out of all the stuff that I've got, this little gadget here is probably one of the best things that I've bought in a long time. It's the Audio-Technica Tone Arm Safety Riser. So if you're like me, or a lot of people, if you're playing a record late at night and you happen to doze off and you have a fully manual turntable like I have, both of my turntables are fully manual, which means at the end of the play, it doesn't, won't turn off. It's not going to lift the tone arm off the dead wax. It's not going to return it back, to the tone arm rest. So you need something to keep your stylus from just going around in circles on the dead wax until whenever you decide to wake up and deal with it. So I'll show you how this thing works in just a minute out there. One of the other things I forgot to mention is parallelism. So your tracking angle This is a Hudson Hi-Fi. Now, I'm pretty sure this camera is not going to be able to get this, but there are 1 mm increments on these horizontal lines through this. And so for my turntable in this EAT, this E-flat, this flat tone arm, this is actually really, really good because, you know, you can set this next to the tone arm and make adjustments to where you can see exactly, you know, the parallel, that your arm is fully parallel, that you're avoiding the instance where you're going to have, you know, your tone arm is high, you know, or it's low, and that affects bass tubbiness and maybe how light your sound might be. So getting your arm really parallel is extremely important. In my case, with the flat arm, this thing works really, really good. It's probably a little bit more difficult to use on a round tube type a tone arm, but something that helps you with parallelism or tracking angle is important. So there's two more things: is record cleaning, and you know, those are going to be a lot of people, you know, getting ultrasonic machines these days. I think the technology for ultrasonic record cleaning has gotten really, really good. The downside of it is good quality record cleaners are exceedingly expensive, and I don't own one myself. I have the vacuum style, the VPI 16.5. I'll show you that in just a second. So those are basically the things that are important, except for the last two before we head to the audio room. This is not so much an analog accessory, but this is the IR Acoustics Irrational but Effacious. You know, I don't even know what this thing really does. It creates like noise, it does white noise and so forth. But the last track on here is called the Full Glide Sweep. And if you run this thing every month or month and a half, for some reason, I don't know why, but it just has this weird effect of improving the way the system, it just brings coherence back to your system again. It's like demagnetizing the head on your tape deck. You know, it just has a overall beneficial effect. So if you don't have this one, you should check it out. It really does work. I'm not selling you snake oil, I'm not kidding. All right. And lastly, if you're hanging up posters or something and you need something in your room to stick, do not buy this DAP blue stick because it's garbage. It sort of imitates blue tack. This is the real deal, all right? So you know, you can put up posters and things with this and they'll stay up. You put it up with this, they'll fall down, all right? Not exactly an analog thing, but I just couldn't resist that. All right, let's go to the room. Okay, so this is the Audio-Technica tone arm lifter, and if you can see it closely here, it's got this little tentacle, and what happens is once your record has basically come to an end, then you'll see it clicks that little tentacle and lifts it right up, and that gets you off of your dead wax. And then to reset it, you just simply push it back down. Ready to go again. So the last thing here is the way I clean records. This is with the VPI 16.5. It's just a simple vacuum system. I've had this for at least a dozen years. I think I'm the third owner of it. The toggle switches are the old style. So basically, you know, one of the things that I recommend is using this L'Art de Son cleaner. This is the solution. It's super concentrated, so you only use a small amount with distilled water in here, and then this is the applicator. That's just distilled water itself for the rinsing cycle. So the idea is you put your record on here, turn it on. As it spins, you put some of the record cleaning solution on it, and then with this brush, clean it. Then the vacuuming, pretty loud. So it's a little bit manual. It does take some time to work. I want to caution you though on using this. If you buy a new VPI record cleaning machine. They caution that if you use any other type of cleaning solution other than their VPI cleaning solution, you void the warranty on the record cleaner. I don't understand that. I mean, I can't see really how something like this, would be a problem for them, but maybe it's just because they want to sell you their own record cleaning solution. But nonetheless, that's it. I've been having this machine for quite some time. I've cleaned hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of records with this, and it's worked great. So that is the end of the Analog Accessories vinyl version. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, give us a like, a thumbs up, and hit that bell notification so you get future updates of new content. Y'all have a good one. Bye.